Good morning, Calvary Baptist Church and the people watching on YouTube. My name is Hayward Merritt Settles Jr. My father is Hayward M. Settles. My mother is Kathy Settles Crow. 58 years old. I'm a sinner saved by grace, and I'm here to talk about a story of how God, prayer, and moral support has helped me through some of the most difficult times in my life. Without it, I wouldn't be here today. My story starts off, as all stories starts off, I met a girl in the 9th grade. And I knew right then she was going to be my soulmate, because my grandmama said there was a soulmate out there for me. And I met her in the 9th grade. We started dating in the 10th. We started going to church regularly. And the reason I did that was I also had a Christian family I met with Glennis. Their names are Glenn Franklin and Dale Franklin. And they have 3 beautiful children, Glennis, Anissa, and Norman Franklin. And they also was a big part of my Christian growth. And I was at church. At first, used to see Glennis, but then it got where I started listening more to the preacher. But every time I tried to go to the altar, I had what my preacher used to call the white knuckle disease. I was sitting there with white knuckles, knowing I needed to go, but was afraid of what my friends may say. Well, one night at a 10 Arbor meeting, I listened to Brother James L. Harper, and he had a deep voice. I never forget the voice he had. He was like a voice from God that I thought God sounded like. And I listened to him, and I didn't care what people said. I didn't only walk to the altar, I ran to it. Because I knew at 17 years old, I needed it. I needed it more than ever. And it was not to make Glennis happy, it was not to make my new Christian family happy, but it was to make my life complete, and I knew I needed it, and that's how I got saved. I got married to my love, my soulmate, in 1984, May 1984, and my story begins. We've been married 39 years, the best 39 years I've ever had with a woman. She has always been there for me through thick and thin. She was not only my wife, the one I love, but she was always also my best friend. And I could talk to her about anything. And God blessed us in 1989 with a beautiful chestnut-colored baby boy. And it was a lot of both of our lives. It was what we dreamed about. It was what we wished about, to start a family. He was born 5 pounds, 14 ounces. My doctor told me that he would be a sickly child. He'll probably be a kind of a weakling. And I looked at the doctor very clear, because I've always been very blunt with my words. I said, "You see any small people around here?" "We're not small, Doc." And in 2 years, you'll see he's not either. He laughed, and we went home. And we had a beautiful home for my son to go to, because my wife made sure it was just right for him. He got ear aches, he got colic, he got all the things you could get as a child, and my wife was right there to rock him and love him. And I was too at night when I came home from work. So I thought I had everything made. I thought, I'm going to church, I'm doing the right things, I'm going to work, I've got a beautiful wife that I love dearly. I've got everything. God, you have made it so great for me. So I started, I'm not going to say backsliding, because that's not the word, but I started maybe missing church. Thinking, well, I'm tired today because I worked, all week. I'm going to take the weekend off, like most of us do. But every weekend it got to be easier. And because I come from a Christian family, my mother, my father, also my other Christian family, Glenn and Dale Franklin. Glennis told me, she said, this is wrong. You're saved, I'm saved, we need to be in church. You know, she was right. Yes, I'm supposed to be the head of the household, but you also got to have a good woman to nudge you sometimes. And she did, and we went back to church. We got busy in the church. We got, I was ordained in 1994 as a deacon of Fellowship Baptist Church, and I took that job very seriously. But they also gave me a chance to not only give me Christianity, but maybe help somebody else by phone calls or going visiting. So I got more to church and better to church. And then we prayed and we said, Lord, we've been together now, almost, I say, God, we prayed since we've been together now a few more years that we wanted to have a child, another child. My wife always wanted what we thought was a perfect family with a son and a daughter. That's what we wanted. We prayed for it. We couldn't get pregnant. We went to doctors. She got tested. I got tested. Nothing was wrong with me and her physically, but we just couldn't have a child. This was in 1999. We moved to Richmond Hill, closer to my work, and so we went to doctors, we prayed, we done everything to have another child. And lo and behold, she got pregnant. She called me from work, you need to come home. I got something to tell you, you need to come home. She said, she met me at the door with the biggest smile on her face you could ever see. That was not her smile, that was God's smile giving it to her. And I know that, I could see that. And everything was going so good. We thought everything was going to be fine. We were going to have another child, 2 children. But the third month, she called, and I could hear a different tone in Glennis's voice. You need to come home. And luckily, and behold, it was on a Saturday night. And me and Garrett said, well, we go ahead and go get something to eat. We came back, Glennis was laying in the bed with tears in her eyes. And my boy at then was 10 years old. He didn't understand. Why was Mama crying? I didn't understand at the time, but then she told me that we just had a miscarriage. When I say we, I didn't, but when it's your wife, you both do. So she went through the pain of having a miscarriage. And I prayed to God to help me, help my wife. And there's 3 things I'll never forget that came into my ear. You need 3 things, son. You need me, you need prayer, and you need good moral support. Well, I have you, God, I said. I pray every night. I have good moral support. What happened? It's not for you to question, but me to give you these 3 words. At first, I didn't understand that. I was not angry with God at that time, but I was hurt because my wife was hurt. So we quit going to the doctors. We just sit there and prayed one night. God, if it's in your will to let us have another child, please let us. But in my belief, God knew there was something wrong with that child. Because He knows that child from the day it's conceived. So I believe in my heart that He knew something was wrong with that child. So He spared us the torment of losing the child 9 months later. And that's been my belief, and that's been my whole reality of this. Because I think everybody tries to put reality in what just happened. That's human spirit. But we prayed to have that child, but we stopped going to the doctors. We stopped, doing all that. And 3 years later, 13 years after my first son was born, I have another child. Her name is Madison Meddy Sells. And I was the happiest person in the world to have 2 children. Now I have Glenn Garrett settles and Madison Meddy settles. And that's how it started with 2 children. We got on our knees and we thank God and that we had 2 children that we wanted. My son was a proud 13-year-old big brother, and they loved one another. And that was the first tragedy in my life that I had to have God, prayer, and moral support, was the miscarriage, and now God also gave me more prayer and more support for Madison. So we had the perfect life. Again, I had a good job, a great wife, great kids. So I was in the driver's seat. We had what we wanted. But I never did give up praying and thinking about what we needed to do. We went to church. We raised our family in church. My son got saved at 9 years old at the Christian Baptist Church, and by John Walker. And I was proud that he was a saved young man at 9 years old. He was not like me. He wasn't a white knuckle type sitting in the back, but he knew that he needed to have a Christian life because of what he's seen at home, the love that me and Grannis had. He's seen that, and he told me that. He said, "Daddy, I've never seen y'all fight, or I never see, yes, I'm like any other family. We have all, difference of opinion, but we made a promise to ourselves when we got married that we would never fight in front of our kids. And if she was mad, I was mad, we had our own place to go to. And then we never went to bed mad, because that was one of our rules when we first got married. Well, it's 13 years after my first son. And we thought everything was going good. But the night of April 13th, 2012, at 11:30 changed me and my wife to really know what God, prayer, and more support meant. I got a call from a coroner at 11:30, and he said my name. Everybody knows me as Meddy. Nobody ever calls me Hayward. Nobody's even heard my other name was Merritt. I go by Meddy since I was 3 years old. So when he said, "Is your name Hayward M. Settles?" I thought it was one of my members in my local union that's been hurt, but it wasn't. He said, "I don't think that's who that is, son. I need to ask you some questions," because he's in front of me in my office in South Carolina. He said, "Does your son have a tattoo of 2 dice and sayings on his arm?" I said, "Yes, sir, he is." Does he have chestnut colored hair? I said, "He does." Here's my little wife standing, trembling, looking at me, wanting me to give her words, wanting to give her something to go on. I hung up, and to this day, to the day I die, I will never forget the look on my wife's face when I told her, "Honey, we just lost our baby boy." And people, until you see that look and you feel that pain, you will never know what God, prayer, more support means. People, Christian people and non-Christian people, you can think you got it by the world, that you don't need no help, that you got everything you need. Prayers, you pray, you think you're a good person, but until you lose 2 children, like we have, it's hard to get over. And only you, prayer, and moral support can get you through this. But God again intervened and gave me and Glennis two Christian detectives. One that was a detective from a local detective in South Carolina. I can't give their names because they both retired now. They were asked that when they retired not give their names out. But there was two Christian people with children, so they knew mine and Glennis's actions and what we wanted. We wanted not only what happened, but we wanted justice. I knew the guy's name that killed my son the day before we went and seen these two detectives because his girlfriend told me who it was. And I said, how do you know this? She said, I know where he was going, but I thought it would be okay. I said, what do you mean they will be okay? Not only did I lose my son, but another mother lost their son because his best friend was with him. So there was a double homicide in South Carolina. And they told me what was going on. But she told me the name, not the real name, but the street name of the guy that killed my son. I told him about it. We knew who did it. We knew everything, but we could not prove it. The DA would not take it to court. And you know, I've thought about that. If we'd have went to court, and it'd have been like going through it all over again and hearing what people says about your children. You say you can take it, but I couldn't have took it. And I surely know my wife couldn't have took it. So I thank God would not let us go to court because he knew it would be the hurt that we couldn't go through again. But God gave me justice in his own way. And March 18th, that detective from South Carolina that kept in touch with me on a weekly basis, and he cried with me, but he was there for us. And he talked to me, and he helped me. And not only did I have help from them, but I had help from others. I had two congressmen involved helping me get some of my son's personal items from the coronary and from the police and from the ongoing investigation. That was personal to me and Glennis. And I'm not trying to get political because one was Republican and one was a Democrat. So they both helped me because I seen the hurt in mine and Glennis's eyes. And so we got through it. But God gave me something. I'm not going to say this was good or bad, but God gave this to me and Glennis. On March 18th of 2018, the detective that has been helping me through this case called me personally at 9:30 at night. He said, Mr. Settles, is your wife there? I said, yes. He said, I want to tell you something. I'm sitting in front of the man that killed your son. He is not on this earth no more. I told him, I said, I can't be not glad because the person that hurt me and my wife so bad that killed my son is now dead, the same way he killed my son. But I can't also think about the mother of this child is going to have to bury this child because he was a mother to somebody. He was a brother. He was a uncle to somebody. They've lost somebody. But I could not say I was sorry to see him dead, but I was sorry to see his family to start going through what me and Glennis are going through. So that happened. Years went by. I got interviewed several times from the press, from TV stations about how was my case going. And all I could tell them was you have to put your trust in somebody, and I put my trust in God and these two detectives that he's got working for me. They're doing their job. I had a man one night call me from nowhere. Just called me and said, "Are you Hayward Settles?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Did your son get killed on Tootin's Landing in South Carolina?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "How's it going?" Very nice man, very known man in the community. And he said, "I tell you what I'm going to do to help you speed this case up, son. I'm going to personally put up $25,000 out of my account to put on." At that time it was a line share, where people would call it anonymously and give tips, $25,000. I never forget that. And I mean, he just called us, and he said that this meant a lot to him to help us. Here's a guy from South Carolina calling two people from Georgia and telling us he's fit to give up $25,000 of his own money to help us. And so we went on year after year. We did not want nobody to forget my son, because my son was somebody. He was a sinner saved by grace as I was. And he meant something to this family. He meant something to his church family. He meant something to his 9-year-old daughter. The day that I had to tell my daughter that her brother, her Bubba, was not going to be home tonight. That was another hard thing to see. But my daughter's a lot like me. She takes things, she analyzes things, and she wants what's best for everybody. And I'm proud of that of my daughter. My son was like his mother, caring, loving. I was more get to the point, get the figures, how do we figure this out? Glennis taught him a different way. I'm teaching Glennis that we both go, sometimes we got to be on the same team. But I also teaching my daughter the same, what I try to teach my son. But we went on, we still had calls from the detectives. And now it's been 11 years that he's been gone. I'm giving this testimony so his name will never be forgotten. And I hope it never is. But life goes on. But also, without God, prayer, and more support, me and Glennis probably would not be married. Probably hate one another, because we'd have probably started the blame game. But we didn't. We prayed. We asked questions. We read books. We called people. Because in our thinking, like most people would think, we're good people. We go to church. I help people. I'm in a position to help people get jobs, have hope, have faith. What have we done wrong, God? That's the only time I've ever questioned my God. But how could you not? But he gives me, today, he's giving me words to say, to tell you that he's still with Garrett. We've had confirmations that we still have Garrett. We see hearts, and that was our confirmation sign that Garrett was okay, was the hearts that we see. And it's still today, 11 years later, we still see hearts, and we know God's okay, and we're okay. That's how God works, people. He will not leave you suffering. If you only believe and trust and put it in His hand, you can get through anything. And that's two things we've got through. But I've got another story, another tragic story about me. It's not tragic, it's life. It's how life works. I'm no special. In 2022, February the 14th, the day of love, the day that everybody's supposed to be happy, going out to eat, giving chocolates, giving cards, giving roses. Me and my wife is in the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, with Dr. Stephen Attia. And he's the no, he give you the word right out of his mouth. He's blunt, but I like that about him. I don't need nobody on my life telling me something that might not be true. He said, you have a beast, and this is the exact words, you have a beast of a cancer. You have angiosarcoma. It's a very rare blood cancer. Only 1,400 people a year gets it, and there's almost zero survival rate. I looked at him right then. I said, hold it, doctor. How many have survived? He said, 2. I said, well, buddy, you write me down, because I'll be the third one. Because I've got God, and I've got more support. And I know that he's going to heal me one way or another. He said, son, I look at you, and I know you think that, and I believe you. But statistically wise, you will be dead September of 2022. Because most of my patients don't live past 6 months. And I've been doing this 20 years. But he said, you don't look like this upsets you. I said, sir, if you knew what me and my wife has been through, this is nothing. You're going to die. It's just the quality of life you live between your death, between your birth and your death is what people are going to remember you by. That's how they're going to remember you, not how you live. And I've lived a good Christian life. But he told us that, and it would devastate most people. But as I said, me and Glenn, not most people. We've had 2 major tragedies in our life. I never forget, we walked out of that hospital with our hands, holding hands. We prayed on the way home. And we've been back and two with him. I had a blood count at one time at 19. That's almost no blood count. What that means is you have no energy. Because your blood count supposed to be between 150 or 350. I was at 19 to give it its perspective. I never gave up. I never lost the sight. Because again, I had God, I had prayer, I had moral support. And this went on for a year, going back to get chemo treatments. I went through it great. Nobody even knew I was sick. I still had my hair. I was still working because he told me to retire. I said, I can't retire. I said, I got more to do for the people I work for and the people that I help. And so I worked till November 1st, and I finally retired from a job that God put me there, because I know God put me there. And we went on. September came, and I walked in his office. I said, well, Doc, we up one. What you mean, son? I said, I'm still here. He laughed, and he laughed. He said, you know, I think you are going to be my third one. My platelet count started going up and staying up. I got up to 55 because I couldn't take a cancer treatment unless my platelet count was above 50. I've been always able to take a platelet count. Take my chemo because my platelet count was in the right numbers. It went on. November came. I retired. Still working in the shop. Still doing everything right. Nobody could believe it. I was walking, talking, going out to eat, going to church, going to my favorite Sunday school class of truth tellers because they really tell the truth in that class. And that's what I love about that class. You can say anything you want because it's coming out of your heart. If it comes out of your heart, somebody in that room is going to listen. And I told in that class one day that at one time I believed that I'm praying for you was a catchphrase like good morning or good night. I did not say that in a mean way, but I've often wondered when a man or woman come by you and said, I'm praying for you, brother, or I'm praying for you, sister, was that just a kind word? It was something you said. Now granted, I knew there's prayer warriors out there. I believe in prayer warriors. I believe in prayer. But I did not believe that if a man or woman told you, I'm praying for you, brother, that he truly meant it. And I said that in that class, because the class is called Truth Tellers. And I was there to tell the truth in my side of the story. And yesterday, my best friend, and that I have was Sean O'Quinn. And he said, you said that, and I thought about it. And right then and there, when I say, I'm praying for you, brother, I turned around and I prayed, so I would not forget it. You said something that turned my life around. As I said, I'm in a great Sunday school class called Truth Tellers. But he also a class that prays for me, sends me cards, comes over, talks to me. I've had brothers from my local union come by, sit with me, talk with me. They give me more support. I'm lucky to have to be an only son of my mother and father, and to have as much or more support as I have. I didn't realize that to the tragedies that's been through my life. But every time, if I would just let him, God's been there. Well, I'll wrap this testimonial up. And these are, again, brothers and sisters, these are not my words coming out of my mouth. God has been in my head for 2 weeks to tell my story. And when I heard the young man give his testimony the other day, I knew I had to give mine because his words are coming from God and my words are coming from God. But it's November. I retired. I come home. As all retirees, we have plans. We're going to visit. We're going to go places we never gone because we have the time. We have God give me the resources, a great job, insurance. Everything you see that I have, it came from God and what jobs that God placed in front of me. And so we had it mapped out. The only thing that was holding us back is every 3 weeks I had to go get a treatment, doctor's care, blood work, and a CT. And then every 3 months I have to get a CT scan to see how my cancer was doing, how it was moving, if it was growing or what. Because again, this is a blood cancer. It moves to every organ in your body, not just one. February came, we were still good. We were taking the treatments. I had 6 treatments of a medicine of all things called the Red Devil. And it truly is the Red Devil. Because I've had over 17 treatments and nothing has bothered me, nothing's took me down. But my last treatment was 17. It's so hard on your body, it actually affects your heart, and you can only take 6. After my 6th treatment, and on the 5th day of my 6th treatment, I lost the ability to walk like I've been walking. I had to walk with a walker. My speech was not good. I hurt so bad that I was sometimes bent over in pain that you could not believe. I could not sleep. I couldn't do anything. I've been in this house 15 weeks. It was just awfulest that you could ever think about that I was going through. But I knew I had a trump card to all the pain, suffering. I had a beautiful wife that cared for me, was truly a God's caregiver that helped me through every day at that time. And I had God, I had prayer, I had moral support, and He was going to get me through this awful time of 15 days. 2 days ago, God put another person in front of me, Dr. Taylor. He is a palliative care doctor. What that means, bluntly, is he's not a doctor to extend the quality of your life. He's the doctor that helps you have quality of life for the time you have. I don't know if he's a Christian, but I can tell in his words and his voice that he was a Christian man. And he said, I'm going to put you on a steroid for 20 days. It's going to make you feel great. It's going to make you feel that you can do anything. Because, ladies and gentlemen, some of y'all might have seen, I was a pretty big guy. I weighed 254 pounds when I started this stuff. I'm down to 198. That's 56 pounds I lost through this ordeal. Because I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything but drink water and maybe some applesauce. But now this morning I done ate oatmeal. I had my first full meal was last night that I've had in a month, in several months. But going back to Dr. Taylor, he told me, because I bent over, he knew I was in pain. He could see it in me, I was in pain. He put his hands on me and said, I'm going to help you get through this, brother. I'm going to help you get through this. It might not be long, it might be whatever, but I'm going to get you through this. And that gave me hope that I was going to feel good. I done told him that day that I'd accepted that I would die from this disease. But God didn't give you that you was going to live forever. He's either going to heal you on this side or He's going to heal you on the other side. When I do go on the other side, there will be no chemo treatments. There will be no hardship. There will be no more pain. There will be no more losing someone. I will be in peace because God saved me at 17 years old. And today I'm giving you the words that God gave me. And if He could bring one person closer to you, God, and that you be saved, and you've heard the words that's coming out of my mouth, it's worth everything I've said. Amen. And I hope you've enjoyed it.